what's your perspective on that? Like, what's agency like world would like Barcelona and overall like Istack events, like that's the guy like behind all of this, and amazing organization and networking. Like he brings some of the best people in the industry together to learn from each other. So Eric, I have a question for you. Like, so for you, like, does that like come natural, like to connect people? How did you come like to this kind of like setup where you basically bring the people together and you get them like in this amazing environment so they learn from each other?
It did come really naturally. Like when I first started coming to these events, and you meet all these people from literally everywhere in the world, and you instantly have something in common with them.
Yeah.
And the thing you have in common is that you're trying to find like another way to do life.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't want to do what your father did or what your grandfather did. You don't want to just work away at a corporate job. You want to try to forge your own like life and your own way of making money, and then the incredible upside of what that can bring. And so I started traveling around to these events, and every single person I met, it's like you already have something in common with them, and then you really are able to connect. And so that just became something that I really, really liked. And then I started doing, when we started running the events, and I started connecting with even higher level of people, you know, the people that are actually, that I would want to, have speak or, and just, again, it was just the quality of the people, of the attendees, of the speakers really made me want to kind of continue doing it. And then, I was just saying that, when you look for something to do, you look for something you're good at, something that makes money, and something that's meaningful. Yeah. And this is this has been a very meaningful experience. All the connections that I've made, and all the value I feel that has been provided at these events from all the feedback we get. It's really good.
Awesome. So where do you see the industry is heading? Like moving forward, like what do you see like the major changes? Like we had like affiliate world, like we had this one. So what do you see is happening, like the major shifts?
I think the thing that I'm most excited about right now, and I hear the best marketers who I hear talk about things, they always talk about content, and they talk about when you live at the mercy of Facebook and Google, having to buy users every single time they come to your site, it's going to not always be the longest term solution. Yeah. And so the more content, the more reason that you can give people to come to your site and stay on your site, the better off you're going to be in the long term. So to me, the biggest thing is the people that are going to win are the people that create content and then create audience from the content.
So like communities, is that?
Communities is like even extension of content. That's what I follow. I'll give him a shout out because I'm really liking him, and I know he's getting a lot of popularity. And you should definitely interview him in your group as well. His name's Stephen Black. Have you heard him? No. Stephen Black, he teaches a method he calls, because if you're going to have a method, you got to name it something cool. Yeah. It's called tiger hunting. And so it's a method where you essentially build up content, you create smaller pieces of content from those main pieces, and then you put them out organically onto many different social networks. You bring people back to your site, and then you're able to follow the people who engage with your content more, and those are the tigers. So that particular strategy of creating, using VAs to schedule content en masse.
Okay, so it's like something similar to what Gary Vee does, right?
It is, that totally, it is. It's like an extension, but there's a very specific aspect to his strategy where you get people to do, you do page like campaigns, and then once they're liking your page, you pin a post and you promote that post to have them join your group.
Okay.
And your group is where you can even do more selling and more engaging and all of that. So I think groups are a huge part of the strategy.
Very nice. So overall with like e-commerce and everything, do you think like it will, a lot of the speakers, they've been talking about like building brands, and actually like even Alex Brown, like he's, they're like direct heavy hitters, like direct response. But they said like one of the major shifts like they want to work on is kind of like building like more like longer term brands. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I think for sure that's something that we've been saying sort of since we started with Istack training, is that we came from affiliate world, and affiliates are all about affiliate stuff. Yeah. They're all about arbitrage, right? Yeah. They're all about creating value in a very short exchange. Yeah. And there's always going to be room for that. Yeah. And there's always going to be people that know how to, I don't know, how should I say, like
arbitrage and circumvent
circumvent rules or things like that. And that is there's always going to be that opportunity, even though that window appears to be getting smaller and smaller. But the people that win are the people that create brands, and the brands that win are going to be the ones that create content and create followings and communities. So I think brand is a huge part of it, obviously.
I see that. So some of the things like we've chatted like yesterday. So you mentioned there are like different types. So there are like you as a marketer, right? So we are as a marketers, like we learn these skills like how to sell stuff, right? And then there's so many like companies and even like big companies that can benefit from these, right? And so like, and in properly like structured like arrangements, like it can be very lucrative, right? So what's your vision? Like for example, with regular agency model, and we chatted like with Nick, where like different kind of like arrangements can be done, like if you know that stuff. So you've helped like educate so many people, right? So what's your perspective on that? Like what's agency like world would like how will that change, like in terms of how marketers help brands grow?
Well, I think there's two sides to what you're talking about. There's sort of like we call it like the performance marketing revolution, right? And so there's sort of old agency models, and like how many businesses, what percent of businesses are actually, that's mine, oh, thanks. There's so many businesses, brick and mortar businesses, that don't market correctly, that don't market with performance in mind. And so I think that is going to be the biggest driving force in the opportunity for people like us, is people that really understand the value of a click. They really understand how to funnels, how to grab attention in the Facebook newsfeed. These are skills that like 80% of businesses have no idea about. And so I think there's a huge opportunity there. And then when you talk about agencies, it's a similar thing. You've got these sort of like dinosaur agencies who are focusing on brand lift or things like that. And I think in that case there's a merging of the worlds, because they understand brand and they understand brand voice and these things. Sometimes performance marketers might roll their eyes at this kind of thing, but it's also part of the equation. And so I think if you can kind of connect the two,
brand and direct response,
I think that's really the future. And then the other thing I'm really interested in is with agencies, the model of just sort of cost per action, cost per acquisition is a really tough thing. I've seen so many different agencies who've taken a product, and they've taken a product from no sales or a couple $1,000s in sales to millions or tens of millions of sales. And then the company, often, even though they appreciated it, often they'll just say, okay, thanks for your service, we'll take this in-house now. Or they'll see another shiny toy, another agency who pitches them on something else, and they'll go do that. And so the agency model can be really tough. And I think that's why it's important for agencies to consider really selecting partners carefully and building deals that are structured to contain like revenue share opportunities as well as potential equity if the fit is right.
Cool. So I think that's a big one. Like because as agency, like you put a lot of like time into like figuring out like the marketing, like very important things, right? And then like you need to be compensated for it properly.
And if you can, you got to be compensated in a way that actually builds. I think anytime you're in business, you want to build an asset, right? And it's very, and it's a lot of people in our industry. They make a lot of money. There's a lot of cash flow coming in, and that's great. But then when they stop, the value stops and the money stops. So I think always trying to think about how you can build a longer term asset is super important as well.
What was your favorite like speech throughout the event?
I think. First of all, I gotta say yours was awesome. I think your talk was excellent. I think it hit home. It wasn't my favorite, but I thought it was super good. Your boy Alex killed it. I would say my favorite talk was probably Chris Erthel's.
I hear so many people saying the same thing.
He just had such energy and passion. And the tips that he gave about creative, specifically, are things, when you have Nick Shackelford in the, not talking and taking pictures, Nick Shackelford's at the pinnacle of the game when it comes to creative strategies and things like that. And to have Chris come in, represent Barcelona so well, because he lives here, and do such a strong presentation. He was probably I would say he's my favorite.
Cool. So for all of the industries like that you're seeing, like, so obviously there are like new industries like cryptocurrency, like CBD, like like all of these. Like, do you see any like emergent opportunities for marketers in those industries?
Well, I'm going into the CBD space and the cannabis space as well. So what I'm trying to do is combine, because cannabis is legal in Canada.
Correct.
So, and there's a lot of licensed producers there. And there's our government kind of really bungled the launch of cannabis in Canada, and it really handcuffed these companies' abilities to connect with their customers, because basically they have to buy, a licensed producer creates cannabis, they have to sell it to the government, and the government then supplies the people. So there's like no connection to the customer from the licensed producer.
Okay.
So what I'm really interested in is using some of the content strategies that I've described here to build up audiences and then to help connect cannabis and CBD companies to the customer. And right now we're in this position where Google and Facebook kind of stand in the middle of that.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in totally white hat ways of leveraging content and community to connect consumers with these sort of game-changing products. For me, I'm a cannabis user. I'm a big fan. And it's rare I feel like in our world, it's rare that you get a win as a citizen. It's like, okay, more taxes, or there's another war, or something like this. But all of a sudden in Canada, it's like, okay, cannabis is legal. Yeah. And it makes sense. It's common sense that a plant should be legal. So I feel like it's a big win for the people. And I feel like I think there's a chance for these things to not transform society, but potentially like help society evolve to a more conscious and sort of like positive place. And so I want to be a part of that revolution. So for me, I would say the CBD and cannabis spaces are pretty interesting.
And so other so you mentioned something about like building the content and kind of like, so is that something like combined, like, so obviously like, so you have the content, but then do you have like some call to action, or how do you
take it? So the way that I want to do it is through content. Like basically you want to build up the audience, you want to keep them engaged, and then the way that I think that you're going to trigger the audience into sales the best will be through contests, where you're able to grow your audience through things like Viper.io and things like that, where you're able to grow virally. As long as you create a good prize and you have a good audience, I think there's a real opportunity to grow your audience there. And then using, in order to enter the contest, you've got to enter your SMS number. And I think that would be the other big takeaway from this event, was the power of SMS remarketing for e-commerce people. We had SMS Bump as our sponsor at this event, and I think it's one of the most powerful things for people already running e-commerce stores is to offer a discount, give us your phone number, and then very carefully and cautiously sort of use that in order to make extra sales, because SMS just has exponentially more powerful results than things like email. And
then with like chatbots, do they have place in this strategy?
Oh, of course, yeah. I think chatbots I think SMS is like the most personal form of communication right now, because it's literally like right there in your messages. But I think next to that would be messenger flows, and I really like Maxwell Finn and how much he talks about sort of dynamic front ends on your ads, where you're really engaging people with sort of series of questions, you're collecting data throughout it, and then you're able to market more dynamically. And I think that's another big trend, is sort of that dynamic aspect that you can really get through Messenger.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much, Eric. I mean, always like pleasure connecting with you. I know we had an interview like a few months or last year, and it was we had very good response from that. There are some changes might happen, right, with Istack events, but I know you always be on top. You always be like on the, monitoring the industry, like knowing what's happening, where it's heading.
It's too good not to. I just, the people are too great, and I definitely am going to be in this space for the long haul.
Yeah, cool. Always pleasure connecting with you, Eric. Thank you very much for this.
Alex.
Thank you.